Hey, Pretty Girl Club. I want to talk about the divestment to Dusty pipeline. Okay, one of the most toxic things that I've noticed about Black female empowerment spaces is not only are a lot of them male centered, but I feel like a lot of Black women on YouTube went from being Black male centered to now being white male centered. And we know this because whenever they're trying to combat the exotical space, they'll say stuff like, well, racist white police officers still view you as just black, or racist KKK members, they only view you as black. Or white men prefer me because I'm dark skinned and I have 4C hair, and so my phenotype is more different than them. All of those talking points are incredibly white male centered, but the most white male centered movement of them all is the divestment movement. And actually, I won't even say white male centered, I will just say non black male centered, because if you look at a lot of their content, a lot of it is just either shit talking about black men, so those are the more black male centered divestors, or it'll be kind of like these social strategies on how to get into the Hispanic community, how to get into the white community. You know, they'll make these videos like, okay, if you dress elegant, then you're going to get Brad's attention. So all of it is really social strategy to get the attention of white men. But what they do not talk about is how to get rid of the psychological issues that cause you to attract these dusties from the non-black community. Exhibit A is Sky Jackson and her baby daddy. And some of you guys are going to say, oh, well, I think he's mixed with black or whatever. But you guys have to remember that in the black empowerment space, they view biracials as being non-black. Okay, so if you are like mixed race, they view that as being non-black. And so in their eyes, a lot of them still consider it a form of divesting, which is why a lot of unambiguous mono dark-skinned black women still thirst over biracial men very heavily. It's because they are attracted to his proximity to whiteness. You know, the same thing that they accuse black men of doing. You know how they say, like, oh, this black man only likes you because you're mixed race and, you know, he couldn't get a white girl, so now he's settling for you. Well, unambiguous black women have had the same behavior. So a lot of them who couldn't get a white man, or, you know, they couldn't get like this Jeff Bezos type of white man, they will settle for or they will chase after these mixed race and biracial pookies. And I'm not sure about this guy's racial background, but that's a good example. Another example is Kiki Palmer and Darius Jackson. So you guys have to remember that a lot of unambiguous black women, when they're looking at men who are mixed race or racially ambiguous, they do not view those men as black in the same way that they would view like Tyrese or somebody like that. So the last time I checked up on Sky Jackson, she was doing yachting. So yachting, if you guys haven't heard about that, yachting is like the girls who go on these yachts with these wealthy, mainly non-black men. And sometimes they're doing X work, other times they're doing quote unquote modeling. Who knows what's going on? But that is the last time I heard of Sky Jackson. There were rumors that her mother was actually pressuring her to try to get pregnant or get married to a wealthy non-black man. So by the way, I don't know if any of that stuff is true, but those are kind of the last rumors that I heard about Sky Jackson. And now, allegedly, she is pregnant, but apparently she met this guy from prison. He was like some sort of prison pen pal, allegedly. So my question for the divestors is, who are they divesting to? Do you guys remember how Cynthia G used to have her YouTube channel and she would talk about who they really choose, and she would expose who black men actually are divesting to, or like who they actually marry? I feel like I could start an entire series on who black women really choose whenever they are stepping outside of the unambiguous black community. So you've got Sky Jackson and her prison babe. So she was basically a pen pal, and allegedly he doesn't even like her. And by the way, who would recommend getting with a guy where, you know, he doesn't even value himself, or he's literally in and out of prison? Another example of a divester is Lonnie Love. Do you guys know that actress? So Lonnie Love is a talk show host. She has a white boyfriend, James Welsh, and he is an actor. But if you look up Lonnie Love's net worth compared to James, update. So I was searching for James Welsh's net worth and I actually couldn't even find it. So it means that basically he does not have a high net worth at all. In fact, when I looked up one of his websites, it's an IMDb page where all of his acting gigs recently are literally just him with Lonnie Love or him on talk shows. And so he really is like a struggling actor. If you look at his IG, it says, oh, I'm a SAG-AFTRA actor. That is something that like a brand new actor who is not even established in the industry would put in their Instagram bio. So it's safe to say that he is average at best in terms of income. And this is another pattern that I see. A lot of black women who divest, they're divesting into 50-50 relationships. They're divesting into domestic violence relationships. Look at Rose from Queen of Kings. Allegedly, her man was in jail because of domestically abusing her. And not to mention the fact that he threatens her all the time. Like whenever he gets mad, he threatens her. She talked about how when she met him, he was in a basement. So a lot of these women who talk about divesting, oftentimes they are paying the bills of these guys that they get with, or they're getting cheated on. You know how they try to talk shit about Exoticals? They'll be like, you got the same black man, or like, you got cheated on, should have chose better. Well, a lot of these women who get with these white men are getting cheated on, or they're getting pumped and dumped, or they're getting abandoned. So where are the divestors when it comes to this? And by the way, for those who said that I don't care about black femicide, I don't see Chrissy talking about this. She's not talking about Sky Jackson potentially facing black femicide by getting pregnant by this guy. But another example that they use in the divestment community is Serena Williams. Serena Williams is married to the guy who's like the CEO of Reddit. That guy still actually has a lower net worth than Serena Williams. So that is a hypogamous relationship. Most of the interracial relationships with a black woman are going to be these hypogamous relationships because a lot of non-black men will use these black women as their employees. So a lot of these men, this is why I say to just go ahead and decenter men altogether, because a lot of men who are non-black, they view these black women as like these hard-working women. I mean, because they are, right? So a lot of non-black men will actually prey upon these social climbing black women, and they will essentially ride the coattails of these black women. Think about James. Well, I've never even heard of that guy. I've heard of Lonnie Love. I've seen Lonnie Love on that talk show that she was on. But this actor guy, this washed up actor, I had never even heard of him. And so a lot of times I've noticed a pattern where these non-black men, they will see an unambiguous black woman who's kind of social climbing, she's kind of going somewhere in her career, and they will use their white skin as a way to lure that woman in, and they will essentially ride her coattails, or they will suck her dry of all of her resources. Because if you think about like Sky Jackson, she most likely has access to way more money than the guy she is pregnant by. And so in some cases, sometimes the man will actually try to sue the woman, or he will try to like get money out of her. And so I just feel like a lot of black women, they basically become tricks. So you know how they talk about men tricking off their money? A lot of black women actually end up tricking off their money, essentially purchasing a white boyfriend or kind of purchasing this lifestyle for themselves and then putting on this facade where it's like, oh, I'm so well taken care of. And then if the woman is well taken care of by her white boyfriend or husband, usually it's a guy who looks like Santa Claus, you know, like it's a guy who's completely not attractive at all. So it's like, okay, you're telling me that I have to bend it over and bust it wide open for Santa Claus every night? Like that does not sound like a satisfying, fulfilling life. So, I mean, let's be honest. A lot of these women, they're actually femcells. They're married femcells. These are women who get into these relationships to where maybe they are getting their financial needs met by these white men, but their sexual needs are not being met. This is why a lot of those women, they will be obsessed with who Exoticals are sleeping with. They'll be obsessed with who we are sexually attracted to or who's sexually attracted to us, because those women have unfulfilling lives in their marriage. You know, they're married to a guy who's super fat. Like, that guy, when he lays on top of her, he's literally crushing her ribs. So, like, she can't even enjoy herself in that area. So she is still not being completely fulfilled in her relationship. And my question for the divestors is, who are they trying to be like? Because a lot of times, these women, they really want to be like the mixed or biracial women who married a white guy. So think of Tamara Mowry. That's who they really want to be like. Tamara Mowry, she married a white guy or whatever. You know, they want to be more like that. They want to be more like Nara Smith. They want to be trad wives, and their standard of femininity and their standard of living and their standard of relationships is often some sort of exotical. It's some sort of mixed race woman who has a closer cultural proximity to the non-black community. But what do you ladies think? Because can you think of any good examples of an unambiguous dark-skinned black woman divesting and like being provided for, and then the man who is providing for her is also faithful, loyal, attractive, meets all of her needs. Can you name any examples? Because to this day, the divestment movement has been going on for like decades or almost a decade at this point, and I still cannot see not one positive example of an unambiguous black woman successfully divesting, because they never set a standard of what successful divestment actually is. If anything, their standard of divestment is really just multiculturalism. So it's becoming as much like a mixed race woman as possible. Okay, so becoming as multicultural as possible. So you want to be kind of like Nara Smith. You want to behave like that. You want to have like this certain level of elegance, because of course they associate elegance with non-blackness, and of course they associate ratchetness with blackness. So they don't understand or value their own blackness. They kind of devalue it, and so they feel like the more cultural proximity they have to whiteness, the higher status they actually are. And this is where a lot of the jealousy comes from, when it comes to them like hating on multicultural and multiracial women. And then these women have the audacity to also hate white women. So you hate Karens and you hate white women, but you want to sleep with her son. Do you see how mentally ill that is? So you hate mixed women who have white mothers. You hate mixed women who have non-black mothers, but you want to marry those non-black women's sons. Anyway, what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comments section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.